ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ 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 ईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्।
Tapovanam, Sri Sathya Sai Satcharitra, the sacred life story of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba by Jandyala Venkateswara Sastri. Day 1, Thursday. Chapter 1. Tapovanam. You cannot see me, but I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, but I am the sound you hear by. You cannot know me, but I am the truth you live by. Baba. Entering the Tapovanam. Before I commence the Parayanam of this book, Tapovanam, I offer my most humble salutations to the lotus feet of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai, the Lord of the universe, the protector of the afflicted and the encapsulation of Satchitananda Parabrahma, the universal supreme reality. There stands a banyan tree on the mountain path leading from Prashanti Nilayam to the university. It is no ordinary tree. It is the Dhyana Vriksham, the tree of meditation, and it is the Tapovriksham, the tree of spiritual austerities. On 29th of June, 1959, Ashadha Purnima, that is the full moon day of Ashadha month, Bhagawan materialized a thick copper plate of 15 inches by 10 inches, inscribed with alphabetical letters of great spiritual potency, Bija Aksharas. He deposited it in the earth at a spot specially chosen on the hill behind Prashanti Nilayam, and over it planted this banyan tree. On that sacred occasion, he addressed devotees and declared, "This tree is the Bodhi tree under which Gautam Buddha sat, meditated, and received spiritual illumination. This is the tree of enlightenment, Gyan. Lord Krishna is known as Vatapatrasai, reposing on a banyan leaf, because during the period of Pralaya, ultimate merger of all creation in the infinite, he assumed the microcosmic form of Balakrishna, Krishna the baby, and reposed on a banyan leaf. This is the tree referred to by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. If aspirants or sadhakas meditate and undertake spiritual austerities here, they will attain fulfillment of their desires, success in their efforts, control of senses, and steadiness of mind. With reference to planting of this tree, one of the lines in the Ashostra Satnamvali reads, Sadhakanugraha Vatavriksha Pratishtapakaya Namaha. The banyan lives forever. It is immortal, Amaravriksham. Growing into a mighty tree by itself, it drops innumerable root-like extensions from its branches to the earth, which in turn become fresh roots and extend the tree in all directions. The process goes on and on, providing an ever-increasing area of cool shade and shelter to people. I do not hesitate to assert that Bhagavan is likewise providing ever-increasing zone of protection and peace for the benefit of the entire humanity. This Tapovriksham is certainly Kalpavriksham, the wish-fulfilling celestial tree, identical with Bhagavan. Those who are in intense distress and are tired with the ups and downs of life, those who are on spiritual quest, those who ardently desire something pure, those who are progressing on the path of spiritual enlightenment, all such persons gather at the feet of Sri Sathya Sai and attain tranquility, supreme peace, and equanimity. Truly is Baba himself a Tapovriksham where all spiritual austerities achieve fulfillment. Prashanti Nilayam is verily the Tapovanam. Physical construction of the complex of Prashanti Nilayam had not yet commenced then. One day, Bhagavan was standing on the rocky grounds there. Out of his mouth emerged prophetic words. Before long, this area is going to be transformed into a Shirdi, a Tirupati, and a Varanasi. Thousands of yogis, sannyasis, and seekers of truth and divine grace will rush to this place for spiritual peace and salvation. From this spot will originate the universal program of revival of Sanatan Dharma, the eternal faith of righteousness. Hundreds of thousands of people from all corners of the world will visit this place eagerly, searching for me. At the far fringes of such crowds will stand many more craning their necks to catch at least a glimpse of my person. If they manage to snatch but a fleeting flash of a tiny bit of this ochre robe I wear, they will thank their stars and feel that the purpose of their lives has been fulfilled. Within a short time after Swami made this announcement, Prashanti Nilayam took shape. The Prashanti Mandir, with its distinctive style and beauty, the temple tower, numerous multi-storied buildings providing accommodation to devotees, the exquisite Purna Chandra Auditorium, and the Sai Kulwant Hall, all sprang into existence. Very soon, Prashanti Nilayam was designated a township. In the words of Baba, this is a place where every human being can experience spiritual peace par excellence. It is a temple and at the same time a church and a synagogue, to each according to his or her preference. Everyone is entitled to drink deep at the unlimited and bountiful fountain of love of God. God has incarnated here in human form. Here, everyone can reach the highest levels of spiritual attainment. My goal is to convert every human heart into a Prashanti Nilayam. It is only for achieving this that the present avatar of mine has materialized on earth. Every devotee is free to avail themselves of these benign surroundings to meditate to his heart's content, irrespective of the deity he worships. He will suffer no disturbance. Nowhere else in the world could such a facility be found. That is why this place is regarded as universal garden of meditation, Visva Tapovanam. Fulfillment of spiritual austerities is attained very much faster here. The formless supreme reality, Nirakar Parabrahma, is seen here in flesh and blood, in human form. Just sit in meditation and God himself comes to you. He stands right in front of you. He smiles gently at you. He touches. He speaks endearingly, reassuringly to you. He touches you softly. He blesses you. He showers divine bliss on every atom of your being. It is only on the strength of good deeds and good fortune accumulated during numerous past lives that one is privileged to enter this Tapovanam. That is why Bhagawan says, without my will, nobody can set foot on the soil of Puttaparthi. No one can do so by chance or by accident. And this is literally true. Hundreds and thousands of visitors throng to Puttaparthi, seeking relief from the restlessness of mind. They come from far and near, from every continent and country. They belong to different races and religions, and they speak numerous languages. They go back after experiencing indescribable bliss and peace. They are receiving due reward for the merit they've accumulated during previous lives through spiritual sadhana. No less than personal interaction with God himself is their supreme reward at Puttaparthi. They rejoice in the blessings Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai showers on them. Those who never before practiced any spiritual austerities whatsoever get inspired on seeing Bhagawan and begin to do so. This is evident even to a casual observer. Because of many such reasons, this book has been named Tapovanam, the Garden of Meditation, and the ever-merciful Bhagawan has blessed this humble effort. Pranavam, the pilgrimage center of Puttaparthi, is surrounded by beautiful hills, which provide a sylvan, pleasant, and peaceful environment. One feels as if great sages and rishis are performing meditation there. Behold, it is now the Brahma Muhurtam, the pre-dawn period. Cool and refreshing breezes are wafting. Birds are up and making soft chirping sounds. In the Prashanti Nilayam precincts, around 4:40 a.m., the gong strikes 12 times. That sets in motion the day's activities in the divine court. Devotees quietly move into the forecourt and take their seats in perfect rows. At 4:50 a.m., the gong strikes 5 times. Those who are sitting in the forecourt smoothly move into the hall. After the bhajan hall is full, lights are switched off and the doors are closed. It is now exactly 5 a.m. A bell is rung. The gathered devotees begin rhythmically intoning the Omkar, the utterance of Om, the universal sound in perfect unison and measured tone. Omkar is credited with the power of attuning the individual Atma, the soul, with the Paramatma, the supreme principle. The great rishis of yore gifted Omkar to the world as Mahamantra, the sublime, most potent mantra. It is said, Om iti ekaksharam Brahma. This single syllabled word Om is itself the divine principle. It comprises 3 sounds, A, U, and M, Om. Constant and sustained incantation or japam of pranavam leads to obliteration of mind and experience of supreme bliss. Regarding the profound significance of Om, Baba has this to say. There is only one word which is all, pervasive throughout the universe. That is the Omkar. That is Pranavam. All creation is imbued with Pranavam. The mountain brooks sing the Pranavam. The oceans sing Pranavam. Why? Even the process of inhalation and exhalation is nothing but Pranavam. Those who perform manual labor, like palanquin bearing or lifting weights or washing clothes, ease their strain and soothe their nerves by rhythmically intoning Pranavam. That being the case, if one intones Pranavam with full understanding of its meaning and significance, and with devotion, one is sure to expiate all burden of accumulated sin and attain release from the cycle of births and deaths. Just as a long train of coaches moves forward when it is linked to a railway engine, all mantras become potent and fruitful when they are prefixed with Pranavam. Even if just Pranavam alone is intoned, it amounts to having intoned the essence of all the Vedas. Such a potent and all-powerful provider of supreme bliss, the Omkar now echoes. It is linked to 21 times in Prashanti Nilayam. The spiritual vibrations thus generated are carried on the wings of the early morning waves of breeze, creating spiritual pulsations throughout the universe. Next follows the Suprabhatam, the ceremonial wake-up of the Lord. The verses are in Sanskrit. The music is rhythmical and specially attuned to the early morning environment. Generally, lady devotees sitting in the mandir recite the Sanskrit stanzas with devotion and love.
Suprabhatam. Ishwaramba Sutta Shriman Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Sathya Saisha Kartavyam O son of Ishwarama, O resplendent majestic one, the dawn is breaking in the east. The daily tasks of divinity, which you have undertaken, have to be accomplished. Therefore, awake, O Lord Satyasai. Uttishtottishta partisha, Uttishta jagadipate, Uttishta karuna purna, Lokamangala siddhaye. Awake, awake, O Lord of Parthi, Puttaparthi, where he has manifested himself, and from where his splendor radiates over the entire world. Awake, O Lord of the entire world, and of all mankind. Awake, O Lord of compassion, so that the world may attain fortune or mangala. Chitravati Tatavishala Sushanta Saudhe Tishtanti Sevakajanaastava Darshanartam Aditya Kantiranubhati Samastaloka Shri Sathya Sai Bhagawan Tava Suprabhatam. In the vast mansion, so full of peace or Prashanti Nilayam, on the banks of river Chitravati, those anxious to serve thee are waiting for thy darshan. The radiance of the sun is spreading, illumining all the worlds. O Bhagawan Shri Satya Sai, we pray for a glorious daybreak, blessed by thy wakefulness. Tvannama-kirtanarathastava divyanama gayanti bhaktirasapana prahishtachitta datum kripa sahita darshanamashutebhyah Shri Satya Sai Bhagavan Tava Suprabhatam. Persons who are engaged in singing aloud thy name and who are happy when they do so, because then they taste the nectar of devotion, have come, and may thy benign darshan shower thy grace on them. We pray for a glorious daybreak, blessed by thy wakefulness. Adaya divya kusumani manoharani Shripada pujana vidim bhavadangrimule kartum mahotsukataya pravishanti bhakta Shri Satya Sai Bhagavan Tava Suprabhatam. Bringing holy flowers of captivating colors and fragrance for worshipping thy feet in the form prescribed by the scriptures. Thy devotees are coming in with great yearning and enthusiasm. We pray for a glorious daybreak, blessed by thy wakefulness. देशान्तरागतबुधास्तव दिव्यमूर्तिम् सन्दर्शनाभिरतिसंयुत चित्तवृत्त्या वेदोक्तमन्त्रपठनेन लसन्त्यजस्रम् श्री सत्यसाई भगवन् तव सुप्रभातम्. Learned persons from other countries, moved by the yearning to have thy darshan, have come. They are having great delight in reciting constantly the mantras of the Vedas. We pray for a glorious daybreak blessed by thy wakefulness. Shrutva tavadbhuta charitramakhanda kirtim vyaptam digantara vishala dharatalesmin जिज्ञासुलोकमुपतिष्ठति चाश्रमेऽस्मिन् श्री सत्यसाई भगवन् तव सुप्रभातम्. Hearing thy marvelous story and thy fame that has reached the farthest horizons, earnest seekers of reality have come to this place and are waiting for you. We pray for a glorious daybreak blessed by thy wakefulness. Sita sati samavishuddha hridambujata bahvangana karagrahita supushpahara sunvanti divyanutibhe fanibhushanam tva Shri Satyasai Bhagavan Tava Suprabhatam. Women devotees in purity equal to Goddess Sita and with hearts like lotuses, whose petals are unattached to the world in which they live, but are drawn to the sun that is God, are singing thy glory through holy hymns, holding excellent flower gardens in their hands. We pray for a glorious daybreak blessed by thy wakefulness. Suprabhatamidam punyam ye patanti dine dine te vishanti param dhama jnana vijnana shobhita mangalam gurudevaya mangalam jnanadayine mangalam partivasaya mangalam satyasayine. Whoever daily recites this wakening hymn will attain the highest abode, resplendent with the supreme intelligence as well as the supreme wisdom. May the divine Guru be auspicious to us. May the bestower of wisdom be auspicious to us. May the Lord who manifested in Parthi be auspicious to us. May Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba be auspicious to us. Spiritually speaking, Suprabhatam is an appeal to him to awake to the devotee's yearning. It is an appeal also to one's own consciousness to wake up to the truth of his being, one's own innermost reality. It may sound odd that human beings sing the awakening up song and bid good morning to Bhagawan, who is ever awake and ever alert, and is the supreme witness to everything in the universe. Where is the need for waking up the one who knows no sleep whatsoever and is ever wakeful? Then, what is all the Suprabhatam for and for whom? The real purpose behind this musical exercise is to arouse ability to discriminate or viveka, and of sleep that holds us in its embrace like a mother. Is to arouse ability to discriminate viveka and alertness in all of us who have woken up from the bosom of sleep that holds us in its embrace like a mother. The inner meaning of Suprabhatam is to remind ourselves God resides within everyone's heart, and also to trim and nurture the flame of awareness or Jnana Agni so that it may burn brighter than ever. Here is a revealing incident. It was the holy night of Shivaratri, the night marking the birth of Lord Shiva in the form of Lingam. A scholar named Sri Dipala Pichaya Shastri was sitting amongst devotees doing bhajan in Prashanti Nilayam. Suddenly, he had a strange thought. I would like to see the wonderful grace and beauty of Bhagavan Sai Baba when he is asleep. At about 11 p.m. that very night, Swami summoned Shastri into the interview room and began talking to him. Shastri did not notice the passage of time. It was more than an hour. He felt drowsy and could not hold back his yawns anymore. Swami then asked him, Shastri, you wish to see me asleep, but you yourself are dozing. Shastri suddenly sprang to wakefulness and wondered how Swami knew his innermost thought that had crossed his mind a little while ago. Baba assumed a tone of serenity and seriousness and said, Shastri, if I were to sleep, would you be waking up again? Shastri was startled. God is perpetually wakeful and eternally active. We should never overlook this simple truth. Nagar Sankirtan. After Suprabhatam, it is now time for Nagar Sankirtan. It comprises an activity in which groups of devotees go around the streets singing devotional songs. They sing with ardent devotion and dedication, and the rhythmic music, often accompanied by simple musical instruments, inspires holy thoughts not only among the singers but also others. In the early hours of the day, when the birds are chirping their own musical sounds, when cool and soothing breezes gently waft over Prashanti Nilayam, the lovely music of devotees as they go around Swami's mandir provides an unforgettable experience to one and all. Nagar Sankirtan begins at the entrance of Prashanti Nilayam with the auspicious darshan of Lord Ganesh under the spreading peepal tree. Devotees in orderly lines go around the Nilayam complex and come back to the point where they started, that is the Ganesh temple. At the age of 10, Sri Sathya Sai Baba, then known as Satyanarayana Raju or simply Satyam, would gather a group of boys from Puttaparthi for singing bhajan songs. The group called themselves Sri Panduranga Bhajan Mandali. Inspired by the enchanting personality of Satyam, the group would don appropriate custom-made uniforms and with flags in their hands go around the village street by street singing bhajans to the accompaniment of cymbals. They would set a tall lampstand on the ground and go around it in a wide circle singing in rhythm and ecstasy. Occasionally, infectious diseases like cholera and smallpox used to rage and ravage villages all around Puttaparthi. But here in Puttaparthi, residents noticed everyone was safe, happy, and healthy. They felt that it was solely due to the devotional activity of Satyam's Bhajan Mandali. Soon, residents of neighboring villages began inviting the Mandali to come over and perform bhajans. In due course, they too noticed relief from disease and untimely death. The tiny devotional seedling planted by Satyam in those far off times has blossomed today into the Sri Sathya Sai Seva Samitis and their Nagar Sankirtan Brindas or groups carrying on bhajan activities on a more extensive scale all over the world.
Darshan. Nagar Sankirtan is over and it is time now for Darshan, i.e. public audience, familiar known as Darshan of Bhagawan. Eager devotees are now entering the audience hall and taking seats in well-ordered rows. Meanwhile, the temple priest performs rituals of worship of the two deities, Lord Ganesh and Lord Subramanyam, whose temples are located directly at the entrance of Prashanti Nilayam Presence. Soon, the devotees are bathed in holy water, Abhishek, decorated with flowers and garlands, worshipped and offered arti. The morning hours resound with Vedic mantras. Now everyone is sitting in well-ordered rows in the audience hall, waiting for the arrival of Bhagavan, the personification of the Ultima in human form and the savior of mankind. Amongst the eager audience are those who have come from far-off lands, profess different faiths, and follow different modes of worship. But here, they are all one. They are keenly waiting for the same identical event that happens regularly every day after day. The arrival of the ever-merciful Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. 2 hours have passed by, but Swami has not arrived yet. Has some devotee in deep distress cried out for Swami somewhere? The moment he called out, "Oh, Sai," the Lord must have appeared in front of him. "Yes, I am here, providing immediate succor." But after receiving the Lord's bounty, does the graceful devotee easily let him go? Does he not shed tears of joy and does not miss the rare opportunity to bathe the feet of the Lord with flooding tears of gratitude? That must be the reason why Bhagavan has not arrived yet. Otherwise, the most compassionate Sai will never take so long to ignore the ache and anguish of the thousands of devotees eagerly waiting in the mandir for his darshan. Oh, behold, we hear the soft tones of the flute being played, heralding Swami's arrival. Thousands of heads turn in the same direction as sunflowers turn towards the sun. With eyes peeled, devotees try to catch a glimpse of the Lord at the earliest moment. Do they see some flash of red there? That play a color marks the direction from which he comes in. The one absolute truth. Ekam Sat. What a glorious sight it is, clad in effulgent, flame-hulled garments, mercy and compassion taken physical form, personification of grace, showering gentle smiles of indescribable charm. Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai is slowly moving in and going along the rows of devotees, with one hand raised in Abhya mudra, the gesture of assuring protection, he is satiating the parched hearts of distressed devotees. He is receiving numerous letters which devotees humbly hold up to him. To some, he is granting the coveted privilege of offering Padu Namaskar, salutations, to his lotus feet. Some others are blessed with vibhuti, sacred ash, manifested from nowhere by a mere movement of his palm. He is blessing some by a soft touch or by a raising of his open palm. The scene is beyond description, a sight of the gods. Swami has been described by scholars as Mona Vyakya Prakatitya Parabrahma Tattvam, which may be translated as Supreme Divinity manifested through silence. Swami does not speak much, but every devotee finds that all his doubts are cleared and misgivings dissolved. All his worries get dissolved as he sets his eyes on Swami. His whole being is inundated with Shanti, peace, Karuna, tenderness and compassion, and Brahma, love. Every person there is thinking alike. How many days and years have I longed for this moment of darshan of Swami? The ever-merciful Lord is now nearing me in flesh and blood. He is close at hand. Let my eyes be satiated with this glorious sight. Let not my tears of joy come in the way and obstruct my vision. My mind has gone crazy in longing for him for years and years. Here is the best moment. The divine beauty is close by. Let my eyes and my mind be fested. My body has lost its sense of touch in waiting so long for him. Here are the Lord's lotus feet. Now that they are within reach, let my body revive itself by touching those divine feet here and now. Oh no, my body does not move. My tongue refuses to move and talk to Bhagawan. All these, my own eyes, my own mind, my own body, even my own tongue are failing me at this crucial moment. Tears are obstructing my vision. My tongue is tired. My body is forgetting itself because of profound joy.
Such is the power of the Sai personality. A mere look at the Lord, the ever-merciful, is sufficient to fill one and all with unparalleled peace and equanimity and unruffled, sustained inner happiness. As we set our eyes on Baba's form, something he himself had said regarding the nature of his divinity rings in our ears. I willed, he once declared, for my own pleasure, to create this vast universe. Before that, there was none to understand me. I merely willed, that's all. Mountains rose, rivers flowed, the earth below, and the sky above took form. Oceans rolled, the sun, the moon, deserts, everything took shape to demonstrate my existence. Humans, animals, birds, all living beings began to speak. To hear and to move about man was accorded primacy. I equipped the human brain with my own discriminative wisdom. What a revelation! What profundity! Reflecting on these words will elevate us to the highest echelons of spirituality. After fascinating the assembled gathering by his audience, Bhagawan slowly walks past rows of school children seated on the veranda of the mandir. Despite his age in the present physical form, Swami makes himself available to devotees every morning as regularly as the sun does. Often we feel quite distressed at the trouble as the sun does. Often we feel quite distressed at the trouble we give him. Meanwhile, Swami selects a few persons for personal interview, conducts them one by one into the interview room, and then with a pleasing smile on his lips, goes in himself. The morning darshan is over. Even celestial beings wait for me. Minds of devotees are full with exhilaration generated by darshan of Bhagawan. Eyes closed, we meditate deeply on the glorious experience just granted to us and the captivating, magnificent form of Bhagawan, and the sweet memory of a massage once given by Baba come to our mind. After availing of the blessing of seeing me, retire to a place of solitude and silence. Keep your mind steady and unruffled. In that state of absolute calm, meditate on my form and the rare privilege and good fortune of having seen me in person. You will then derive the beneficial effect of my blessings in full measure. Then you may enter the stillness and receive the completion of my blessings. My energy goes from me to you as I move past you during public audience. My divine power radiates into your whole being. If you begin talking immediately thereafter, instead of observing silent meditation, the precious energy is dissipated and returns back to me without leaving its beneficial impact on you. Whomsoever I look upon undergoes a change for the better and acquires new potency, which continues to gain strength day after day. Never underestimate the beneficial effects of having my darshan. My walking among you is a gift yearned for by the gods of the highest heaven, and here you are receiving this grace. Doubt not that you have come by this godly boon as a reward for the spiritual merit of your earlier lives. Even celestial beings wait patiently for my darshan. On the other hand, this rare privilege is within your reach day after day. Never forget that this is all due to the merit of your previous lives. These blessings you receive will express themselves in their perfect time. Then they will blossom and bear fruit. What a wonderful assurance. Even celestial beings wait patiently for my darshan. These words bring to us a recollection of a couple of fantastic events.
Hear the Bhuttu's experience. There was an ardent devotee of Sri Shirdi Sai Baba by name Srimati Galli Sarada Devi. She had spent several years in close proximity to him. More than 20 years after Shirdi Sai merged in the infinite, she happened to meet Sri Sathya Sai, and he summoned her to Puttaparthi. In due course, she was provided regular accommodation in Prashanti Nilayam. Bhagawan also gave her a pet name, Peda Bhuttu, as a term of endearment. The word means big bindi, as she used to wear an unusually large mark of vermilion, kumkum, on her forehead. It so happened that in the early hours of one morning, she was sitting in meditation under the Tapovanam in Puttaparthi. It was still dark. She happened to open her eyes and suddenly saw something unbelievable. Celestial women were moving in the sky above the Prashanti Mandir. They radiated brilliant white light as they traveled over the hills towards the east. Beautiful in appearance and bright in complexion, richly adorned with flowers and garlands, they did not walk on the ground, but sped high in the open sky. Peda Bhuttu guessed that they were no ordinary human beings. She could also hear melodious musical sounds. Astonished at the vision, she realized that the celestial beings were returning to their abode after having had the darshan of Sri Sathya Sai Parabrahma, the Supreme God. Peda Bhuttu was a yogini, and was therefore blessed with the soul-stirring experience by Bhagawan. After a little while, she came down the hill and quietly opened the doors of the bhajan hall to find everyone fast asleep. But strangely, the sounds of music were still going on. She realized that some celestial visitors were still there entertaining Baba with music and dance. In the morning, when Pedabortu met Baba, she mentioned to him, "Swami, I saw the celestial beings as they were returning after meeting you." "Oh, did you?" gently smiled Swami. Raja Reddy's vision. It was Vaikuntha Ekadesi, a day of exceptional sanctity. Holy scriptures describe it as a glorious day on which Lord Sri Mahavishnu vouchsafes darshan to devotees at the northern gateway of his celestial abode. A devotee called Raja Reddy was sleeping on the veranda on the first floor of Prashanti Nilayam. At about midnight, he woke up. He noticed through the slightly open doors of Swami's room a very bright illumination. He wondered why so much light was there at such an odd hour. He drew close and peeped through the gap between the doors. He was astonished to find several celestial beings taking turns to pay homage as the lotus feet of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai. They emitted fantastic illumination. Swami was reclining like Lord Sri Mahavishnu on the bed provided by Adi Sesha and was graciously accepting their homage. 7 fires were burning bright all around Swami's bed. The vision startled Raja Reddy. He quietly drew the doors close and went back to his bed on the veranda. He could sleep no further. Next day, he mentioned to Swami about his heavenly experience and inquired, "Swami, who are all those persons?" Swami explained, "They are all celestial beings, devatas. They have come for my darshan. What you saw in the form of flames are the Saptarishis, the 7 great rishis. As I protect you by my blessings, you are still alive. Otherwise, the moment you set your eyes on that scene, you would have been reduced to ashes. Sri Sathya Sai is really the human form of Parabrahma. Our humble salutations to him." Coming back to the proceedings in Prashanti Nilayam, in the southeastern corner within the Nilayam's Mandir, ceremonial worship and bathing in holy water, Rudra Abhishekam of the Salagram, representation of Lord Shiva, has by now been completed. Similarly, worship and ritual chanting of the 108 sacred names, Shatanamma Valli Ashtottara of Sri Sathya Sai Bhagavan, as well as goddess Lalita Devi, have been concluded. Deities are required to be worshipped through pujas. Pujas are really the steps leading to the worship of the self, Atma Puja. Every deity helps in spiritually vitalizing the Atma. Each puja has to be performed with devotion and proper realization that it is but worship of the Supreme Being enthroned in one's own inner self. Love, spiritual consciousness, and awareness of the universal absolute. These should become part and parcel of a devotee's daily life. Bhajan. It is now 9 a.m. and Bhajan has commenced in the mandir. Bhagavan has come inside with a gentle smile and graced the decorated throne. He moves his hands gracefully in rhythm with the songs being sung. He has a habit of moving his fingers as if he is writing something in the air. As he smiles now and then, the audience goes into raptures. What does he write? Why does he smile as he writes? What would be the thoughts that go on in his mind? The whole picture seems so mystifying. We are reminded of what Swami once said. You must all have noticed that when I'm seated on the throne in the Bhajan hall, I smile as though I recognize someone. I move my fingers as if I were writing something in the air. That is because I actually speak or communicate with persons not visible to you. I always help those who pray to me for help, but I do not give publicity to these matters. Does a father advertise the affectionate help he gives to his own son? The public bhajan program comprises devotional songs related to Lord Ganesh, Lord Sri Rama, Lord Sri Krishna, the Buddha, Jesus, Sai, and Allah. The singers sing soulfully, accompanied by music played on various musical instruments. Devotees too join in. In the vast gathering there, who is completely, fully, and totally immersed in the devotional emotion generated by these songs. None else but Bhagawan. Witnessing Swami so immersed in deep Ananda is itself a memorable and edifying experience that the fortunate onlooker will sweetly cherish and recall forever. Swami once exhorted his devotees about the spiritual significance of bhajan through a simple metaphor. When you gather under a tree, he said, and make a loud noise, every bird on the branches flies away. Human life is like the tree, on which several birds are sitting and producing distracting noise. The birds are kama, desire, lust, krodha, anger, lobha, avarice, covetousness, moha, infatuation, mada, arrogant, and matsarya, jealousy, envy. Together they make a cacophony of sounds, disturbing your peace and equanimity. If you loudly sing the names of Rama, Krishna, Govinda, Narayana, and so on, those evil birds will fly away, leaving your minds pure and hearts in perfect peace. Let us grasp the intrinsic worth of performing bhajans, so beautifully illustrated by Baba. Let us turn our hearts towards him. The bhajan is now concluded. Arati has been offered to Swami, and he has proceeded into his inner chamber. This is the account of the morning activities in Prashanti Nilayam. Let us offer our salutations to Bhagavan Sai Baba. Let us ruminate and meditate on his divine form. Let us realize that Swami has retired only into our own hearts, and let us quietly leave Prashanti Nilayam and go home. Let us go. Om Shri Sathya Sai Parabrahmane Namaha. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti He. End of chapter 1.
गजवदना तू दुख हरता गजवदना मोरया 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 गणपति बाबा मोरया गजवदना तू दुख करता गजवदना तू दुख हरता गजवदना मोरया मोरया सूर निरागस हो गणपति सूर निरागस हो सूर सुमनारी भरलियोंदर नित्यरती वावी चरणावन ताने बारन सुमधुर हासे पावत से वाहो सुरानुन ओंकार गणपति अधिपति सुखपति चंद्रपति गंधपति अधिपति सुखपति चंद्रपति गंधपति सुरपति दीन निरंतर हो दीन निरंतर हो सूर निरागस हो सूर निरागस हो गणपति सूर निरागस हो मोरया मोरया गणपति बाबा मोरया 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 गणपति बाबा मोरया गजवदना तू सुख करता गजवदना तू दुख हरता गजवदना मोरया 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 गणपति बाबा मोरया गजवदना तू सुख करता गजवदना तू दुख हरता गजवदना मोरया मोरया सूर निरागस हो गणपति सूर निरागस हो मोरया 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 मोरया
Swami says, at first, name and form are essential. That is the reason why avatars come, so that God can be loved, adored, worshipped, listened to and followed, and finally realized as nameless and formless. Who is this Sathya Sai Baba? Is this Swami, who displays inordinate, superhuman captivating powers, truly God? Is he an incarnation? We do not know even our own nature fully. We are incapable of understanding the true nature of even our closest associates. How can we then comprehend the complexity of the principle and personality of an incarnation? One understands the nature of the moon at least to some extent, although we have only the moonlight to go by, and lamps as reference points can be of little use. Similarly, if we venture to understand Lord Sai, we have to fall back on the only measuring tools available to us, namely the illustrative incidents provided by Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba himself, and also his own messages. Jori Adi Palli Somapa. It was 25th November 1958. After witnessing Swami's birthday festivities at Prashanti Nilayam on the 23rd, Venkataram and his family left by car for Bangalore. When they reached village Bhagapalli on the way, there was a crisis as their little girl, Geeta Sudha, was found to have stopped breathing. The family felt that she was on the verge of dying, if not already dead. In their agony, the family members looked around for help. An old man, apparently a farmer, appeared from nowhere. He came near and took the baby in his arms. At his touch, miraculously the girl showed signs of life and cried. They were surprised to see the girl, whom they thought dead, come back to life so suddenly. Venkataram, the father of the little girl, was overjoyed and as a mark of gratitude offered a rupee to the unknown benefactor. The old man politely refused it. When Venkataram asked for his name, he said that he was known as Jodi Adi Palli Somappa. Later on, Swami narrated this incident to Sri Kasturi. I went there in the form of an old villager, he said, and it was I who gave life back to the dead child. Sri Kasturi wanted to know why Swami had thought of that peculiar name and whether any significance was attached to it. Swami explained, Adipalli means the pristine village, the original one, which is nothing but Kailasam, Lord Shiva's abode. Jodi means a couple. Somappa, composed of Sa and Uma, means Lord Shiva together with Uma, his consort. Sri Sathya Sai Bhagawan thus revealed his real identity, that he is the personification of Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti, Shiva Shakti. On another occasion, Swami asked someone by the name of Kailasam what would his name mean. He was somewhat taken aback as he did not know. He struggled in vain for a whole week searching for the answer to Swami's question. Then Swami himself explained to him, Kailasam signifies the cleanest, purest, and flawless crystal. It is also a symbol of the purest untainted heart. Lord Shiva chose Kailasam as his celestial residence, and he also resides in a pure heart. Prema Kutiram. There stands on the highway close to Bhagapalli a building called Prema Kutiram, the cottage of love, and in its vicinity stands the marvelous structure celebrated as Sarva Dharma Stupam, incorporating the cardinal principles of all the religions of the world. It was not known as Prema Kutiram at the time it was established in 1980. It was then known as Sri Sathya Sai Seva Sibiram, service camp. The organizers were Sai devotees, and they used to serve refreshments to pilgrims on their way to Prashanti Nilayam to attend the festivities there, and also on their way back. By virtue of its dedicated service, the Sibiram received Baba's special appreciation and blessings. On 30th November 1980, Swami visited the Sibiram and told the organizers, My blessings are always available in plenty to whoever is dedicated to doing good. Inspired by Swami's blessings, the Sibiram widened its activities with renewed vigour. In due course, the Sarva Dharma Samanya Trust also came into being. It devoted itself to the establishment of a Seva Sadan, orphanage, and an aged people's home. It so happened that Mrs. Anjali Devi, the celebrated Telugu film actress, Ms. P. Susila, the well-known singer, and some others were on their way to Puttaparthi. The organisers greeted them and requested them to stop for a while and accept prasadam, that is, refreshments blessed by the Lord, provided at the Sibiram. But the famed travellers did not appreciate the nice gesture. They mistook the host to be the usual run of cinema fans, who were always eager to rub their shoulders with film folk. Disdaining the kindly offer, they went on their way. When they were with Swami later, he gently admonished them, I am present not only in Prashanti Nilayam, but also in the Seva Sibiram in Bhagapalli. The lesson went home. On their return journey, they made it a point to stop at the Sibiram. They profusely apologized to the organizers and humbly accepted prasadam from their hands before resuming their journey. Swami is known to move about in the area around Bhagapalli, assuming various forms at will. No doubt he does this for the well-being of the residents there. The author clarifies, in Telugu, Bhagu means well-being, and Palli means village or habitation. The author is using subtle pun on the letters Bhage in the name of the village. On 7th June 1996, Swami inaugurated the aged people's home there, and he announced, "This Sibiram is Prema Kutiram, Shri Sathya Sai Prema Kutiram." Ever since, it has been known by that name. The sacred touch of his lotus feet has often sanctified the Prema Kutiram. On 11th June 2000, Bhagawan again visited Prema Kutiram and, to the pleasure of the devotees, declared open the rest house for the aged, the temple for Lord Ganesh, and the cowshed. Baba, the Shiva Shakti. Bhagawan was once walking on the sandbanks of the river Chitravati in the company of his devotees. He was smiling enchantingly and moving gracefully. That attracted a cameraman who readied himself to take a photo. When he requested, "Swami, just one picture, please," Swami tried to put him off. "No, Bangaru, no," but the photographer already clicked his camera. When in due course the film was developed and printed, the photograph showed Swami as Ardhanarishwara, the divine dual form of Lord Shiva, one half as Shiva and the other half as his consort, Devi Parvati. Around 1945, when the Sera processions were taken out from the old temple in Puttaparthi, Swami used to dress up as Ardhanarishwara. Among those who witnessed the exalted form were his ardent devotees, Kumaramma and Sakamma, who used to recall the splendid vision quite often. During the Treta Yuga, there lived a great rishi called Maharishi Bharadwaj. He loved Vedic learning and devoted 100 years of his life to it. Even so, he could not complete his studies. Realizing that there could be no end to his studies, he set about doing tapas, that is spiritual austerities, in the name of Devendra, the lord of the Devatas. Devendra finally appeared before the Maharishi and told him, "You will never be able to obtain full understanding of the Vedas. Give up this fruitless pursuit. Instead, perform the Savitri Yaga, which will bestow on you the spiritual fulfillment you hope to obtain through Vedic studies." Maharishi Bharadwaj also received the necessary procedural instructions from Devendra. The Maharishi desired very much that Goddess Shakti should be personally present at the yajna. He went to Kailasam for inviting her in person. He found Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati dancing together and totally engrossed. The Rishi could not find a convenient moment to make his request to Goddess Shakti. 7 days passed as he waited and waited. He was having darshan of only Lord Shiva, not of Shakti. He felt disappointed and miserable. On the 8th day, however, Shakti gave him a sideward glance, smiled softly, then turned quickly away and resumed her dance. Sage Bharadwaj mistook that Devi Shakti had deliberately slighted him. He immediately left Kailasam and headed home. While coming down the hill on his way back, suddenly his left leg and hand went out of control, as if they were dead. His speech was gone. One eye went blind. Apparently, he had a stroke of paralysis. Lord Shiva came to his rescue. He drew near and consoled him with kind words. "Don't worry, my dear Rishi. Devi Shakti has truly blessed you as well as your yaga." With these reassuring words, the Lord sprinkled some water from his kamandal, pitcher, onto the disconcerted sage. Immediately, the Rishi regained his faculties. Both Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti promised that they would together attend his yaga and bade him farewell. Bharadwaj successfully completed his yaga in due course, but Lord Shiva and Devi Shakti attended it. Both Lord Shiva and Devi Shakti attended it and blessed him. As a token of their pleasure, Lord Shiva promised the rishi, both of us will incarnate in human form in your Gotram, Vamsam or dynasty, no less than 3 times. In the first incarnation, I will be Sai Baba in Shirdi. In the second, both of us together will incarnate in Puttaparthi as Sathya Sai Baba. Finally, Devi Shakti will incarnate as Prema Sai. He went on to say, O Rishi, when you came to Kailasam, Devi Shakti ignored you for 8 days. In atonement thereof, when both of us take human form in your dynasty, Devi Shakti too will suffer in the same way as you had suffered in Kailasam. When that happens, I will sprinkle holy water on Shakti and make her regain the faculties in the same way as I restored yours in Kailasam. On 29th June 1963, Bhagwan Sai Baba suffered a stroke due to thrombosis and the left side of his body was paralysed. Hundreds of devotees who had assembled in Prashanti Nilayam were agonized on seeing the suffering of the Master. During that week, Swami was in coma for 3 days. He survived 4 heart attacks. Disconsolate devotees could do nothing but shed bitter tears in utter helplessness. After a full week, on the Guru Purnima day, 6th July, Bhagwan was very carefully brought down from his upper floor apartment to the bhajan hall on the ground floor in the arms of Sri Kasturi, Sri Raja Reddy and Sri Krishnappa. It was obviously difficult to seat Baba as usual in his throne on the elevated dais. So, the silver throne was brought down and placed on the ground close to the dais. Soft cushions were positioned so as to avoid discomfort to Baba. As he was slowly eased into it, Baba's left hand was stiff. His left leg was equally out of control. His eyes too were unclear. On finding their beloved Lord in that terrible state of suffering, the devotees began to wail loudly. Then Swami whispered to Sri Kasturi in barely intelligible words, "This illness is not mine. On my own volition, I have taken over this illness on myself. No disease can ever assail me. Let nobody worry. I cannot bear if my devotees suffer." Sri Kasturi used the microphone to announce Baba's words to the gathering. Swami gestured for water to drink. When a tumbler of water was held to his lips, he could not hold it properly and the fingers of his right hand slipped into the water. With those fingers, he sprinkled a little water on the limp left hand and the left leg. He gently stroked his left hand with his right hand, and after, in a few moments, stroked his left leg with both hands. The astonished assembly of devotees, now delirious with joy and ecstasy, realized that Swami had cured himself. They heard him addressing them in their microphone, "Prema Swarupalara," O embodiments of love. He began delivering his customary address on the auspicious day of the Guru Purnima. Swami spoke for an hour, regaling the audience with his characteristic eloquence, lucidity, and exquisite humor. He related the 8-day suffering of Rishi Bharadwaj, at the end of which Lord Shiva made him whole by sprinkling holy water on his paralyzed limbs. Swami recalled the Lord's promise that he and his consort would incarnate on the earth as Shiva Shakti. That Shakti, represented by the left side of the body, would suffer for 8 days, at the end of which Lord Shiva, the right side of the body, would restore her to health by sprinkling holy water. In ringing tones, Swami declared, "I am Shiva Shakti, born in the Gotram of Rishi Bharadwaj by virtue of the boon conferred on him by Lord Shiva and Goddess Shakti in the Treta Yuga."
Life story of Lord Siri Sai. People knew only the later part of Sri Sri Sai Baba's life, that is subsequent to his arrival in Siri. No details were available regarding his earlier life. When was he born and where? Who were his parents? What was his life like prior to his appearance in Siri? These remain unknown until Sri Sathya Sai Baba revealed them in Prashanti Nilayam on 28 September. 1990. The date and month coinciding with the birthday of Shirdi Sai Baba, as declared by Baba. Obviously, little-known secrets of an incarnation can be brought to light by none else but another incarnation. The life story of Shirdi Sai, as disclosed by Sri Sathya Sai Baba, is given here. In the village of Parthi, situated in then Nizam's dominions, lived a devout couple named Ganga Baba and Devagiri Amma. The lady was an ardent devotee of goddess Gauri, consort of Lord Shiva, also known as Parvati. Her husband was a devotee of Lord Shiva. They had no children. This made them all the more detached from worldly concerns. They spent all their time in worship of Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati. Ganga Baba plied a river boat for a living. It was the rainy season and the river was in flood. Fearing that his boat might be swept away if unattended, Ganga Baba told his wife that he would go to the banks of the river and stay there overnight with his boat and take care of it. She gave him his evening meal at 7 p.m. and finished her own meal soon after he left. At about 9 p.m., there was a knock on the front door. Thinking that it was her husband and wondering what made him come back so soon, she anxiously opened the door. An old man was standing outside. He promptly stepped in and said, "Oh lady, it is very cold outside. Will you kindly give me a little space inside for spending the night here?" Hospitable by nature, she produced a mattress, gave it to him, and showed him a place on the veranda to sleep in. She retired to her own room, closed its door, and went to bed. But not long after, the old man knocked on the door again. When she opened it, he said, "Oh, kind lady, I'm feeling hungry. May I have a little rice to eat?" Finding nothing worthwhile in her kitchen except some milled grain, she prepared a little meal with curds and gave it to him. She went back to her room, closed the door, and prepared to sleep. After a little while, the old man once again knocked on the door. When she opened it, he said, "Dear lady, my feet are aching. Will you kindly massage them a little?" She was startled. She went into her puja room, fell at the feet of Goddess Parvati in tears and cried, "O Divine Mother, what is this terrible test you are putting me to? What should I do now? Kindly save me from this humiliating situation." In a few moments, she regained her composure. An idea flashed in her mind. Leaving by the rear door of the house, she went in search of somebody who could be of service to her guest on payment. Her efforts bore no fruit, and she returned home in despair. Suddenly there was a knock on the door, a rear door. When it was opened, a woman stepped in and said, "Madam, it seems you came to my house asking for help to attend on an old man here. I have come to offer my services." Devagiri Amma rejoiced that her earnest prayers had been answered. She took the woman onto the veranda, left her with the old man, and went back to her own room, closing its door behind her. That old man who asked for such a strange service from a saintly lady, and the woman who came forward to serve him were no ordinary humans. They were Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. They began talking with each other. Lord Shiva said, "Devi Parvati, grant this devout lady whatever she earnestly desires." Goddess Parvati replied, "You are the Supreme Lord. You do it yourself." Lord Shiva answered, I have come here to test her devotion, but you have come here in response to her earnest prayers. It would be appropriate if you granted boons to her. Once again, there was a knock on the bedroom door. Now that there was another woman in the house, Devagiri Amma opened the door without any hesitation. She found Lord Shiva and her beloved Devi Gauri standing in front of her in resplendent glory. Her heart was full with happiness and joy. Unable to bear the flood of emotion, she fell at their divine feet. Goddess Gauri spoke, I am blessing you with a boy who will bring glory to your bangsam, and also a girl, so that you may derive punyam by giving her away in marriage, kanyadan, to someone. Devagiri Amma touched Lord Shiva's feet. He said, My dear child, I am pleased with your devotion. I myself will take birth in human form as your third child. The ecstatic lady, so amply blessed, with eyes beaming, did deep obeisance to Lord Shiva and Goddess Gauri. When she lifted her head, they had disappeared. She was now in raptures. She was now eager and impatient. When will the day dawn? When will her husband return home? How soon could she share her heavenly experience with him? She could sleep no more. At daybreak, her husband came home and heard from his wife all that had happened. But he was in no mood to believe. He said, Dear Devagiri, you seem to have lost your senses. You must be dreaming. Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati visiting our house in person, giving you darshan, what nonsense. He took to ridicule. She tried to convince him, but he refused to be convinced. Time sped by fast and Devagiri Amma became pregnant. As she anticipated, a male baby took birth. A year later, a baby girl was born. Ganga Baba found that two of the events which his wife had mentioned had now come true. He was now willing to believe that Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati had indeed given darshan to his wife. He told his wife, You were most fortunate, I was not. The thought got firmly rooted in his mind and grew with time. He was determined to secure darshan of Lord Shiva and Devi Parvati. Eventually, his wife was pregnant again, for the third time. This final piece of proof strengthened his mind decisively. Maya illusion gave way to enlightenment. Now he became restless. When should I get away from this house? When should I commence tapas, spiritual pursuit? How soon would I be able to obtain darshan of Lord Shiva and Devi Gauri? These thoughts were gnawing at his heart. He undertook vows of austerity. Meanwhile, 9 months passed. He became more and more impatient. He could wait no longer. He decided that he would immediately retire to the forest to continue his spiritual pursuit vigorously. Devagiri Amma was not a person to draw back. She too accompanied him, despite her delicate condition. On the way, she delivered a male baby right there on the way in the forest beneath a banyan tree. That was 28 September 1838. Devagiri Amma swaddled the newborn infant comfortably in a piece of her sari, covered him with soft leaves, and left him where he was born, and followed her husband. That is how nobody knew anything about the presence of that baby until Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba revealed it all over a century later.
There was a Sufi fakir in the neighboring village. He had no sons. He found this abandoned baby and took him home. From 1838 to 1842, the child grew up in the fakir's house. After the fakir passed away, his wife looked after the boy. His behavior was quite abnormal. He would go to the Hindu temples and shout, "I am Allah, I am God. And Allah Malik hai, God is the master." Hindus used to trouble him. He used to go into masjids and cry, "Ram alone is God and Shiva is Allah." Because of his odd and unconventional behavior, people of both faiths used to complain to the late fakir's wife. She found it difficult to set him right. She knew a person, Venkusa by name, who was a scholar and a devout person, reputed to be an exalted soul. She took the unruly boy to Venkusa and left him in the great man's care. From 1842 to 1851, for 9 long years, he was looked after by Venkusa, who treated him with great affection and love. That aroused jealousy and malice in the hearts of the other residents in Venkusa's ashram. One day, the boy left the place and reached Shirdi, where he stayed for a couple of months. Thereafter, he left Shirdi too and wandered from place to place for several years. In the course of his travels, he arrived at a village named Dhupkeda. During his stay there, it so happened that a marriage was fixed in the household of a resident of the village named Chand Bhai Patel, whose wife's younger brother was the bridegroom. Accompanying the bridegroom's party, the peripatetic boy went to Shirdi. It was the year 1857, and he remained there for good till his passing away in 1918. He became known as Sai Baba. His extraordinary spiritual powers were soon noticed and people began flocking to him. He received them with kindness and compassion, patiently hearing their problems and sufferings with sympathy and love, and gave appropriate directions to enable them to overcome their difficulties. He would give them mental strength and confidence and spiritual guidance. Gradually, his fame spread far and wide. The above account was given by Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. He also described the close relationship between Shirdi Sai Baba and his devotees, such as Hari Vinayak Sathe, Kelkar, Shyama, and others. Sri Sathya Sai Baba said, towards the end of Shirdi Sai's earthly life, he told Abdullah, who was close to him, not to grieve at his passing away, because he was going to be reborn and give him darshan again. When Abdullah inquired how soon that would be, Baba replied, it would be just 8 years later. The first incarnation took place in the Maharashtra, and the second one would be in the Madras Presidency. Madras Presidency at that time included Puttaparthi, which is in the present state of Andhra Pradesh. Abdullah further asked Baba in what form he would appear in the coming incarnation. Baba replied that he would bear the name of Satyam. Evidently, what he was referring to is this present incarnation of Sri Sathya Sai. The two bodies are no doubt different, but their divinity is one and the same, said Swami. Bhagawan concluded the absorbing story of his previous incarnation by explaining the purpose of the first incarnation of Shirdi Sai was to give intimations of divinity. The second, the present one, of Sathya Sai is for gifting of divinity. And the third, the coming one of Prema Sai, will be for teaching divinity. Shirdi Sai's promise. In the previous chapter, we briefly read about Srimati Gali Sharada Devi, an ardent devotee of Shirdi Sai Baba. Married at an early age, she begot 6 male children, but not even one survived beyond the 6th year of age. Immensely distressed, she went to Shirdi and begged Sai Baba to grant spiritual peace to her. He received her with sympathy, offered her solace, and facilitated her spiritual progress. She often begged him to initiate her into some potent mantra in order to help her in spiritual advancement. He was putting her off somehow or the other, appearing on occasions to be angry too. Sometime in 1980, a little before Shirdi Sai merged in the infinite, she held his feet firmly, pleaded once again for mantra updesh. Apparently vexed with her insistence, Sai Baba turned on her in anger and kicked her in the chest. Deeply hurt, she left him, denied herself food, and slept that night in the open ground under a tree opposite Dwarkamai. Late in the night, the compassionate Baba approached her and gently pacified her with soothing words. My dear child Gauri, I will tell you something. Let us go to the Lendi garden. How can I sleep soundly when you are in distress and are starved? On reaching the garden, he stretched his hand, uttering Allah Malik hai, God is the master, materialized a couple of puris and a bit of koya to go with them. When she tried to go and fetch drinking water, he stopped her and materialized a tiny pot of water in the same manner as he had produced the food a little earlier. After she ate and felt relaxed, he spoke in a pleasing tone. Look, my child Gauri, I will tell you something, but before that, you should hold my feet and promise me that you will not tell this to anyone. After she did so, he continued, I will be reborn in the Andhra region with the same name of Sai Baba. You will then come to me, enjoy my close company, and attain happiness. You are now well past the need for any mantra. After you see me in my second avatar, you will tell this to others when the occasion arises. Sharada Devi considered herself most fortunate and that her life was blessed. Soon after this incident, on Dasara Day, 15th October 1918, Sri Shirdi Sai shed his mortal coil at 2:30 p.m. and attained Mahasamadhi. More than 20 years sped by. She was now running an orphanage. She was traveling from place to place, giving Hari Katha performances to raise funds. During her travels, she happened to go to Urvakonda. She had heard a lot about a miracle boy called Satyam. She went to see him in the house of Sri Sreshma Raju, the boy's elder brother, where the boy was then staying. Satyam noticed her and invited her to sit close to him. When he addressed her in the pleasing tone, Gauri, she was startled, as that was the same sweet and affectionate way Shirdi Sai alone and nobody else used to address her. Satyam added, You owe me rupees 16. Do you remember? She was confused, particularly because she was seeing him for the first time. He went on, You had collected rupees 40 for sending to Shirdi, but you sent only rupees 24 through Balram. So don't you owe me rupees 16 still? To reassure her, he said, I've reminded you about this merely to prove to you that I am Shirdi Baba. As you came in, you did not bother to offer me even namaskar, salutations, but just sat down as soon as you entered. Poor Sharda Devi was now in tears. She fell on his feet and pressed them to her bosom, just as she was habituated to do at Shirdi. Satyam calmed her and said, I told you then, but you did not pay heed to my word. You forgot it altogether, but now you reached me. I'm proceeding to Puttaparthi. Follow me, and I will let you know everything there. Later, at the instruction of Sri Sathya Sai, she took up permanent residence in Prashanti Nilayam. As mentioned earlier, Baba gave her the name of Beda Bhuttu. She lived in Baba's proximity in Prashanti Nilayam till the end of her life. Shirdi Sai Baba would often display great anger, but Sathya Sai Baba is always a picture of sweetness and pleasantness. Swami once explained the nature of this attitudinal difference. When the mother is busy cooking in the kitchen, she gets irritated and angry if her children distract her by making even a little disturbance. But when she later serves the cooked food to them, she is full of affection, love, and patience. The former avatar at Shirdi was at the stage of preparing the tasty dishes. Now it is the stage of serving those dishes to you with love.
Bodies are two, but divinity is one. Om Shri Sai, Shirdi Sai Abheda Shakti Avatara Yanamaha. As a child, Madhav S. Dikshit had seen Shirdi Sai Baba, but spent the last phase of his life with Bhagawan Sathya Sai Baba at Vrindavan in Whitefield near Bangalore. As a boy, he suffered from unbearable pain due to migraine. Hari Sitaram Dikshit, the elder brother of the boy's father, took him to Shirdi Baba. This Hari Sitaram Dikshit was generally known as Kakasaheb Dikshit. Baba rubbed some ashes taken from his dhuni, or fireplace, on the forehead of the boy and brusquely ordered him to go away. The boy was taken aback at what he felt was a slap in the face and curt dismissal. He made up his mind never to go again to Baba. But his uncle, H.S. Dikshit, assured him that he mistook as a slap, on the other hand, Baba's blessing. Besides, what Baba ordered so curtly to go away was not the boy, but his migraine. He added, "Every one of us here has been waiting and waiting for some such sign of Baba's grace. If only he would give a similar slap to anybody, he would feel immensely blessed." Ever since this incident, the vexatious migraine never appeared again. Several years later, having heard that Shirdi Baba had taken reincarnation as Sathya Sai Baba, M.S. Dikshit went to Puttaparthi along with some of his friends. It was the 23rd of October 1961, Vijaya Dashami Day. Speaking on that occasion, Swami says, "This divine power left the previous body in the year 1918. At that time, I told devotees that I would come back again after 8 years. While putting down a paper what I had stated, Kakasaheb Dikshit recorded in his diary that I promised to come back as an 8-year-old boy. This mistake occurred because Kakasaheb Dikshit did not make his noting immediately on hearing me, but it took quite a while to do so. Then too, after a long time, so he relied solely on his memory." M.S. Dikshit happened to be at Puttaparthi for Shivaratri festivities. A doubt arose in his mind. What is this? Shirdi Baba was an unassuming personality, wearing simple clothes. Could he not have taken on rebirth the form of a dandy I see now before me? He seems to be dressed more like a cinema actor. All the while he was watching Bhagawan on the dais bathing Shirdi Sai's image with unending streams of vibhuti pouring out of a small vessel held above the head of the image. He watched also the miracle of Shivalingams, an elliptical symbol of the Supreme Being, emerging out of Bhagavan's mouth. There followed a discourse from Bhagavan, in the course of which he said, "Some persons present here are thinking that it is quite odd that I should wear silk clothes like a cinema actor, and that I sport a peculiar type of hairdo." Dikshit was startled. He had no doubt that Baba was surely referring to his own doubts and felt disturbed. Bhagavan summoned M.S. Dikshit into the interview room. There was a photograph of his late uncle, Kakasaheb Dikshit, in his pocket. Swami saw the picture and said, "This is your uncle, H.S. Dikshit's picture. He was my devotee when I was in Shirdi. Do you still have any doubts in your mind?" All the doubts in Dikshit's mind vanished. but a single ardent wish remained unfilled. He had very much desired to serve as the doorkeeper of Shirdi Baba's room. Bhagavan knew this. He fulfilled his desire by assigning the same job to him in Vrindavan. Swami also said to him, "Your time has come to go to heaven, but Swami has decided to increase your life by 8 years because you stayed with Shirdi Baba for 8 years." Dikshit lived in the house right in front of the gate of Vrindavan. He died 8 years later. The 2nd of October 1996 was a red letter day. Devotees worshipped 1,008 pairs of batukas, or replicas of Baba's sandals, on that day in the grand venue of Saikulvan Hall. Dr. D.J. Gadia spoke on that occasion. When Baba spoke later, he referred to Dr. Gadia and said, "He is the son of M.S. Dikshit and the grandson of Kakasaheb Dikshit, who has lived in Shirdi. This Dr. Gadia did not see him, but I saw him. His father, M.S. Dikshit, brought and showed to me the diaries kept by Kakasaheb Dikshit. He had recorded therein that whatever difficulties one might face in life, one should never give up Swami. This doctor's father, M.S. Dikshit, stayed in Vrindavan for 30 years. It was I who encouraged this Gadia to study medicine and sent him to Manipal. Subsequently, I pressed him to go to London. Thus, the association of this person with Sai Baba comes down from his forefathers long time ago. This is what applies to everyone here. Otherwise, there is no possibility at all of what you're ever coming here. You have entered onto this path only by virtue of cumulative stock of good fortune and punyam acquired over several previous lives. There are crores of people in India. How many of them are able to come here? How many people have the desire to come, yet they are unable to fulfill their desire? It is a matter of divine blessing that you have been able to come to this holy place, Swami said. Baba is all pervasive. Tidman Johansson, a Norwegian from Oslo, happened to come to Buddhapati. Swami materialized a ring and presented it to him to ward off the problems he was beset with. A few years later, while traveling in Bangladesh, he lost that ring in a river near the Chittagong. A month after the loss, when Tidman arrived in Whitefield, Bhagavan came to him and placed the lost ring on his hand. Swami told the astounded Tidman, "This ring came into my hands because I am there in the river. Not only in that river, I am present in every river, everywhere. Swami is all pervasive, omnipresent." Once, a lady devotee from Gunpur came to see Shirdi Sai in Dwarka Mai. She saluted him and sat down. Baba asked her whether the birthday celebrations of his son had gone well. She told him, "Baba, we spent that day happily. We invited all our relatives and feasted them. Prior to that, we arranged all the eatables in a silver plate as offerings to you and left the plate in the puja room. A little later, we wanted to serve that prasadam to the guests, but we found the plate had disappeared. Only my husband and I, and no one else entered that puja room. How could it disappear? We all felt unhappy at losing it. Baba, what happened?" So Baba replied, "Do you remember that as you placed that plate before me in the puja room, you prayed to me to come personally on the happy occasion of your boy's birthday and partake of the Navyadam? As you had desired, I came there and ate them. Not being sure whether you'd believe it, I brought away the silver plate with me. Here it is." He pushed his hand behind the pillow on which she was leaning, drew out the plate and gave it to her. She was immensely surprised and delighted. Abdullah was regularly cleaning that place in Dwarka Mai thoroughly. He would rearrange the cushions and bed sheets daily as a part of his chores. Abdullah did not turn up on that particular day and someone else did the job. No one, however, had found any plate there earlier. How did it suddenly make an appearance now? How can we understand that what Bhagavan means when he says he is omnipresent? I know you don't. Sathya Sai Baba was then touring Kerala. At the request of his devotees, he visited a village near Trivandrum, now known as Tiruvananthapuram in Kerala. His entourage was Dr. S. Bhagavantam, the celebrated scientist. Devotees far and near attended the meeting held there. Swami pointed out to Dr. Bhagavantam, who was by his side, an old lady standing in the corner of a huge gathering. He mentioned that he had known her ever since her childhood. Dr. Bhagavantam wondered on his mind, Baba is much younger. That woman is evidently much older. How could it be in her childhood is known to Swami? He asked Swami, Baba, you are but 30 years old. That old woman must be in her 70s. How is it possible that you have known her ever since she was a child? Baba promptly clarified that he had known her in his previous incarnation. A little later, Dr. Bhagavantam went around amongst the people gathered. He quietly approached the old woman, engaged her in conversation, and inquired, Did you ever visit Shirdi? She replied, When I was a little child, my uncle, the younger brother of my father, took me to Shirdi for Baba's Darshan. Baba gave me a pendant that I still wear around my neck. Here it is. She showed it to Dr. Bhagavantam, whose doubts were then cleared. When we hear of this incident, we are reminded of a verse in the Bhagavad Gita at the beginning of chapter 4. Lord Krishna, we read there, told Arjuna, I taught this immortal yoga long ago to Vishvasvan, the sun god. He conveyed it to Manu, who imparted it to his son, Ikshvaku. Now again, I have imparted this ancient yoga to you. Arjuna queried, O Krishna, the sun god is there ever since the creation. He dates back to remote antiquity. You belong to the present age. How is it possible that you had taught this to the sun god so long ago? Lord Krishna explained, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna. Tani aham veda sarvani natvam veda parantapa. He, Arjuna, you and I have passed through numerous births. I possess the awareness of all those births, but you do not. Om Shri Sathya Sai Paramane Namaha. End of chapter 2.
बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।